Hi, guys. Welcome back to the pod. I am happy to announce that we've picked a name. And by we've picked a name, I mean I picked a name. I'm deciding to call this Art School Archives because A, this is going to be more episodes than I thought it would be. Because the more I think about my time in art school, the more I'm like, oh, that's another episode. Oh, that's another episode. There's so much stuff. Which, I mean, it's 4 years of my life, so that makes sense. But there's so much stuff. So, Art School Archives, and then also, like, my name on here is Castmates Crafts, which is like threes. So, I like the Art School Archives is also 3 words. So, we're just kind of going with that. We're just going with the triptych, triad, triangle. I'm trying to think of words. Triceratops. That's one of them. So, what are we talking about today? Well, first of all, last week, I say this like I know when I'm about to post it. But sure, last week, we talked about what to do to get there. You know, what to do to get to art school and what to do at orientation. We talked about classes. So, I did leave out one piece of information that I did want to touch on today because it was important to my college experience. I don't know if it'll be reflective of y'all's, but it could be. But I'm also realizing as I begin to plan out these episodes that this is also going to turn into story times. It's not just going to be informational. I am going to tell you my own experiences because some of them are weird and wild. And I mean, some of them are like normal art school experiences. And then some of them are like, that was a choice that the school made. What we're about to talk about is freshman scholarships. On the last episode, I said there weren't any scholarships offered to freshmen at my school, and that is true. But there was a scholarship that was open to sophomore, junior, senior bachelor students. And to be very honest with you, I completely forgot until I was planning this episode because it's not a real scholarship and I didn't take it. And it's not that it's useless because it was useful, but not to me. Let me explain. So, the freshmen were not given a scholarship opportunity because they were not trusted to stay in the program. That's crazy to think about from like a outside perspective. Because if you're inside the program, you could argue this point of like, oh, people don't stay, people aren't dedicated, we're not getting in the real art people, whatever. But from an outsider perspective, that seems like there's something wrong with your program if you have people leaving. So when I first heard that, that is the vibe that I got. I was like, it's kind of strange that you won't offer this to me because you expect me to leave. That seems like specifically that I don't care enough about this major when I'm very serious about it. And B, that there's something wrong. Like, that seemed like a red flag. And now, going through art school, I realized it kind of was a red flag, honestly. But not to the point where it, like, I guess, hurt me directly. But talking about people leaving art school, which is what I was told was the issue, that was true. A lot of people that I started art school with either dropped down from a major to a minor in art or left the department or the school altogether. And it wasn't, as far as I can remember, I didn't know anyone who actually dropped out of college. Everyone I knew that left the program or lowered from a major to a minor was still staying in college. It wasn't just like college wasn't for them, so they left, sort of thing. So I just want to clarify that. Now, I did know a lot of people who left and who changed. And it wasn't because of what my department chair was trying to tell me. It wasn't because they just didn't want to do art anymore, or they like picked the wrong major for them. It wasn't because of that. It was because of the department. It was because of the professors, and it was because of scheduling. Scheduling was the number one reason for people to drop down to a minor or to leave the department. Scheduling was absolutely the number one thing. And it's not just scheduling, it was professors not willing to work with students' needs. And they were usually students that had outside interests, such as myself. Like, I was in band. I didn't go into college wanting a music minor. I only went into college actually wanting a creative writing minor. But then I also got a music minor, and I switched from creative writing to English. And in my department, that was honestly frowned upon, to be doing anything else besides art, because it was believed that you didn't have enough time. And it was difficult to schedule for sure, but it's not impossible. Like, you do have time to do it. Like, for sure you do. I did it. Usually what was the problem is that these students were needing to like have a class at the same time as another class, and it was mandatory. Like say they were getting a minor in something and they were an art major, and then this minor had a mandatory class that was only offered at this one time, but they also had a mandatory art class that was only offered at this one time. And so they would go to the art department and be like, hey, is there any way that I could like take this class at a different time, or maybe like I could sit in a drawing 2 class, but I'm actually doing the drawing 3 curriculum, just something to work with me, just because this other class is at the same time. Like, it's not some bullshit reason. It's a completely valid reason. Like, we can't control the times that other departments have their classes, And basically the art department's not willing to work with you. It wasn't. The art department, sometimes professors were willing to work with you. Sometimes professors were willing to be like, oh yeah, like I'll just do like, just come in during like, I don't know, printmaking 1. I'll teach you printmaking 2 curriculum. Like, we'll keep you on track. You're good. Like, we got you. But that was entirely up to the professor's discretion, because the department as a whole was not about to do that for you. And so if your professor didn't care, or if your professor didn't want to accommodate you, it was either get rid of your extracurricular or get rid of art. And a lot of people chose to get rid of art because they're usually, the other thing that they were doing was more willing to compensate for them and more willing to care about them. In my experience, the music department and the English department were far more willing to accommodate me with my crazy art schedule than the other way around. Truly. So, I mean, I can vouch for them that this was the art department just being the issue. But what I still haven't told you is what the scholarship is. So let's get into that. What is the scholarship? Well, actually, it's not a scholarship. Let's just be for real on that one. It's not a scholarship. It's not money. Like, it is money, but it's not like a check that they hand you. You know what I'm saying? This was really a grant. Now, what's a grant? A grant is like money allotted for a specific purpose. Okay. So that means that someone donated money. And like the most common way you see grants is for like beautification. Like, people will donate money to a college for them to add a sculpture in a courtyard or some bullshit. Okay. That's usually what it goes to, beautification. It's usually not supplies. It's usually not student interest. It's usually some fucking art display. Which is wild, because they're not getting people on campus to do the art displays. They're like hiring outside people for an absurd amount of money. Tea with that. But so this money was actually a grant. It wasn't a scholarship, it was a grant. It was money allotted for one specific purpose. This was a summer program that either my professors or the school was affiliated with. And it was, I think, a few hours away from the school, out in the woods. Not to say that my school wasn't also in the woods, but like it was like out somewhere in the woods. And basically it was like an art retreat. And they had like different instructors that would come there. You would stay there for like a certain amount of weeks and you would work on a specific media, basically. And it would count as an elective credit, like an elective like 3-hour course or something like that, I believe. And the scholarship or grant was the tuition to go to this retreat. So it sounds really nice. And from everything I heard from everyone who went there, it was a really good experience and they enjoyed it and they like learned a lot and they really liked the instructors there. Like, it was great. But here's the catch, and here's why I didn't take it. Because yes, it was offered to me. Okay, chill. It was. It's not all expenses paid. You're living somewhere else for like multiple weeks. You need food. You need housing. It may have paid for housing, to be very real with you. I don't know all the logistics because I didn't like do it, so I didn't really ask. I know for sure it paid tuition, but that's all I know for sure. But I know I didn't pay for food. And you know it didn't pay for supplies because ain't nobody paid for our supplies but us. So when it was presented to me as an option, I was like, well, I could do that and spend money, or I could go home where I live for free and make money working a summer job, which is what I chose to do. And then in other years, I would stay at school over the summer and take summer classes to stay on track, because I ended up taking at least 2 summer classes. No, it was more than 2. Probably like 4 at least summer classes just to stay on track to graduate on time because of scheduling conflicts. It was great. But that was more beneficial to me than having to spend money and then only getting an elective credit for it. Whereas if I took actual classes at actual campus, they could be for credits that I specifically needed. So that's why I didn't take it, but that's what it was. From what I heard, it was great. It was a nice opportunity for sure, but that goes back into what I talked about with that like air of money, where people were just like, yeah, just go on this retreat. They didn't even call it a retreat. I'm calling it a retreat. I forget what they officially called it, but they're like, yeah, just go. And I'm like, you do realize this costs me money to go to? And they were like, but tuition's paid. Do you realize that things are more than just tuition? Like, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but like if you get a scholarship to college and it says it'll pay your college tuition, did you know that like everything else costs money too? Like, that's not a free ride to college. There's a difference between your tuition paid for and a free ride. Putting that out there if people didn't know. It still costs money. Like, I wasn't about to spend more money. So that was a no-go. Also, some interesting stuff with that. As sophomores, we weren't supposed to specialize yet. But when you went to this retreat, you did specialize. That about? So it's okay if you do it there? Like, confusing. If this reaches any of my arts girlies who went to art school with me, I'm specifically talking to you guys now. Hi guys. All like, what, 14 of you? There's so few of us. But I did have one person I went to art school with comment that she was excited about the nostalgia. Hey, girly pop. If anyone wants to give me more information about things that I don't know about, like, I know some of y'all had to go on this damn retreat. Like, let me know and I'll update the people. But hey, guys. What's good? I haven't seen y'all in forever. Hi. But okay, side tangent. Anyway, let's get to what we're actually talking about today. Cause that was a whole I forgot to add that in the last video. The last pod. So what are we talking about today? Today we're going to talk about professors. I originally wanted to talk about professors, grad students, and bachelor degree students all in one episode. And then I realized that I have too much to say for that. So we're going to do 3 episodes. Today's professors, the next episode is going to be grad students, and then the episode after that is going to be bachelor degree students. So let's get started. Okay, college professors. Art professors specifically. The whole department is a very informal department. Just straight out the gate. Everyone goes by their first name. Everyone. 18-year-old freshman bachelor student, 65-year-old amazing professor of whatever the fuck. That's Jim. Okay? Everyone goes by their first names. We're not formal people. We're out here in sweats. We're out here in t-shirts. We're out here in crop tops. We're out here in pajama pants. We don't give a fuck about formality shit. Because we got other shit to worry about, you know? So everyone goes by first name. And if a professor whose art wanted to go by a last name or a title, like doctor, which no one in art would go by doctor, at least no one in studio art, because there's not a doctorate for studio art. All the tea, all the shade. There's just not. There's only a bachelor's and a master's. There's no doctorate. To do a doctorate of art, you would need to specify into art history or something like that. That's how you get to that top level. So all of your professors, unless they're art history, philosophy of art, something niche like that, they're actually only going to have a master's and not be doctors. So the only real title that they would have would be Mr. or Mrs. But ain't nobody use that. If anyone uses that, they're uppity. They're uppity and they're weird. We're very informal people. That is Jim. That is Bob. That's not Mr. Whoever. That's Bob. Very, very chill environment. Very, very chill people. Now, to go with the informal vibe of everyone, also, at least at my school, all your spaces are shared. So that's also what leads to things being very informal. Is you don't have professors have offices, obviously, but everything else was a shared space at my school. All the classrooms, all of the grad studios, all of the senior studios, everything was a shared space, which also led to everything being even more informal. And because everyone can walk into every room. And everyone freely walks into every room. It's not like a secretive environment. Everything is out in the open for you to look at. The back of the painting studio, the painting classroom, is the painting senior studio section. It doesn't even have its own space. It was walled off by canvas racks. And you could just step back there and see on the easels what the seniors are working on. And they'll be happy to talk to you about it if they're back there. Same thing with drawing. The drawing studio is just a walled off area of a classroom. And all of our drawing shit was just on tables or on easels back there. And you could walk back there and be like, hey, what are you doing? And people would be like, oh, hey, so this is what I'm up to. What do you think? It's a very I keep saying formal for lack of a better word. It's a very open environment. It's a very engaging environment. Everyone is very happy to talk to you about what they're doing, and they're not secretive about what they're doing. You're not going to be like, oh my God, don't look at what I'm drawing because I don't want you to steal it. that's not the concern, and that's also not like I never had a problem with people like stealing something that I did or like stealing an idea because everyone's doing their own shit. Like even in class where you're doing the same project, like people are doing their own shit. You're just there to like vibe together. And you know these people for years. You know your professors for years. You know all the people in classes with you for years because it doesn't change. You're not going to go through like 50 professors. You're going through like 6 because the painting instructor teaches all levels of painting and like everything else. Like all the professors are set up like that. So you get to really know these people. Like there are people who I know for 4 solid years from doing art. And it's a really nice environment because of that. So the whole vibe, excellent. I love the vibe of art schools. Art schools are so fun just to walk around. Because it's just like on the walls. People are on the floor. People are like hanging something from the ceiling. And you just like walk by and they're like, sup. You're like, sup, bro. It's great. Now, on the topic of spaces being shared, I just want to like stick this in here. It doesn't have to do with professors, even though it kind of does actually now that I think about it. So like I said, the senior studios were like walled off spaces in classrooms. And the classrooms were used for every class. So like there was a painting classroom, right? There was a drawing classroom. There was a printmaking classroom. Like singular rooms. So that means that there's not much space. And that means that there's not many class times available because there's not many classes available. There were caps on how many people could be in a classroom at a time, right? And our cap is different than normal people's caps. Normal people's caps is like, I don't know how many people were in my other classes, like 20 or 30, you know? 20 or 30 people in a drawing classroom where you all need a table. Impossible. Impossible. The cap is like, I think the most people I had in a art class was maybe 15. And that was in live drawing. And that was tight. Like we were fucking cramped in there. And it's a space issue. You just don't have as many seats available. You don't. It makes it very hard to get classes. And that means that if you have a bunch of people who need that class, people get cut. And that's where what I was talking about last time of having to get forcefully put into a class because I got cut out by upperclassmen. And it's the size of the room that is the issue. And then, but also you have the exact opposite problem where what if you have a class, like maybe there's a semester where there's only like 4 drawing emphasis and they all need to take like drawing 3. 4 people, I don't technically like isn't enough to quantify like a class. So art also had the issue of needing to combine smaller classes together to quantify enough students to be a class for like the college to count it as a class and not like I feel like if it was less than that it would be like an individual study or what did they call it, independent study, that's what they called it, where it was just like an individual. So you would combine like art 3, I'm saying art 3, like drawing 3, drawing 4 would be like a combined class to make up enough of the space. It was very weird. Some classes were overpopulated as fucking impossible to get into, and then some classes had fucking 3 people in them. It was a weird thing, and it was also very annoying to deal with. And then also on the topic of shared spaces, I did have one problem with shared spaces, and that was people using my supplies. In art, you're gonna have toolboxes, and I don't mean that like metaphorically. I mean literally go to Lowe's, get a toolbox, one with a handle. And that's what you're going to keep your shit in because that's the best way to store things. Do not, absolutely do not go buy one of those expensive ass art supply box kit things. They're like $100 or like $50. They're insanely expensive, and they're supposed to be like specially made to hold paintbrushes or like some bullshit. That is trash. Go get a tool box. You know what else I got? Someone gave me a fucking fishing tackle box once to put our supplies in. Shit works just the same too. It's great. Okay? Shoe boxes. My fucking paints for painting class in a fucking shoebox. My guy, y'all don't need fancy shit. But because we didn't have fancy shit, that means that our boxes were kind of just in the classroom. So, like, if you had a toolbox, and this would be specifically for drawing, we would just keep them, like, in the classroom, like, in a cabinet. And people, I honestly don't know who or else I would expose their ass, would take, I found out, were taking my toolbox and using shit in it and then putting it back. And I found out they were doing that because they were putting it back in the wrong spot. So that led me to get a lock on my toolbox and then put strips of tape on the top that said, don't touch this in your box, because it's not that I don't want to share. It's not that we won't share with you. We're very happy to share supplies with you. It's that the decency of asking. Like, if you are in a completely different class and then you just see a box with like some charcoal pencils in it and you're like, oh, I need charcoal pencils. Those aren't yours. Like, it's very clearly defined where the class tools are. The tools that like a professor will be like, oh, I have like a bunch of sticks of charcoal. Have at it, you guys. And that will be like clearly defined. If it's not clearly defined as like class shit, don't fucking touch it. It's mine. I paid for it with my money. This is why I put a master lock on my fucking toolbox. So also get a toolbox that you can lock. Now we're going to take a quick word from my sponsor. I'm just fucking joking. I don't have a sponsor yet. I'm just physically hot in my room because I'm wearing a really fluffy hoodie and I'm going to drink some water and take off the hoodie. So the sponsor is me. Will be back with me in a moment. Welcome back. I drank water and I took off my hoodie, so now I'm uncomfortable. So let's talk about professors. There's two big picture kinds, and then we're going to go into more descriptive kinds. Two big picture kinds. You have adjunct. Is that even how you say it? I have no idea. Adjunct professors and full-time professors. Adjunct professors are not on the staff. They are hired for like a class or two at a time. They have a master's degree. Like, they are certified to like teach and whatever, but they haven't been officially hired by the school. So they're there to teach like a class or two a semester. They're kind of like part-time teachers. Then you have full-time professors, which are professors that are on staff at the school, and like this is their like full-time job. While I'm stating that, I'm just stating that as like a formality. There's the like teaching wise, there's no real difference between full-time or adjunct. It's two different kinds of professors that you could get. So the other, like, let's specialize a little bit now. Full-time professors could be tenured. Now, what does that mean? If a professor is tenured, that means, and I Googled this to make sure, it means they're guaranteed their position until retirement unless they make a grievous error. And that's from the Google itself. So usually tenure means that they have been in that position at that school for some amount of time. I think originally it was like 10 years, and that's where the term came from. But when I was Googling it for this podcast, they were telling me 3 years, 1 year, 6 years, like all different kinds of years. So I feel like it's like up to the school's discretion how much time you need to be there to get tenure. But after a certain amount of time, you can get tenure. And that means your position is secured until retirement unless you make, quote, a grievous error. That is wild. That is absolutely fucking wild. The idea that your position is guaranteed unless you make a grievous error. That means you can break other rules. Like, that means you can break rules. The idea that your position is fucking guaranteed is an insane statement for any position. Like the only other time you see shit like this where position is like guaranteed until you don't feel like having it anymore would be like politics. Like, it's insane because all this means for you as a student, that teacher could pull some shit during class and the school won't care. They would have to like do something heinous for the school to do something about it. I didn't deal with that many tenured professors in my school experience. The ones I did deal with were characters. That's one way to put it. They know that they can say anything they want. And most of what they do is said. And they can say batshit things. They can say mean things. They can say things that are not nice about certain groups of people. They can do a lot, and the school will do nothing. And so I bring this up to say, tread lightly if you find out your professor is tenured. Because they could be just like a super chill old guy who is there to vibe and teach you what he knows. He could be fucking great. Or he could not like women and let you know that. You know? Like, it's really iffy with tenured professors. It's iffy with anyone who has a guaranteed job position. Like, that's just, the idea of that is absolutely fucking wild to me. But that's just a little warning. They could be really cool. They could not. Be wary. Because the school won't do anything. Like, I don't want to say like a sweeping statement of like nothing will happen, because it could. But like mine wouldn't. Let's get into other types of professors. So I categorize them into 3 main like personality types. You got the chill professors, the fucking bros. These are normally defined by like what they let you do in class. So some of the chillest professors I had were my art history professors. Shout out to them. Fucking Beth and Andrea. Y'all were the goats. I fucking miss y'all. Y'all changed my life. They were amazing professors, okay? They were super chill professors as far as what they would let us do in class. Now, their classes weren't easy, to be very frank with you. They were serious graders and serious about you learning the material and being able to like write well about the material. But the class itself and their demeanor was hella chill. I would sit in Andrea's class and fucking knit. I would knit. Me and my college best friend would fucking knit in Andrea's class. We would make hats. Or I would draw. Or like all sorts of shit. And Andrea did not reprimand us, did not care. We could do anything in that class. And here's why. We were fucking paying attention. Anyone could do anything fiddly in that class. It was completely fine. Like, don't listen to music. Like, don't talk. But, like, anything silently to yourself that you needed to do to, like, occupy your hands. Because our people are just fidgety as fuck. We need hand things. Like, we're fidgety ass people. Or, like, so, like, doodling, writing stuff down, knitting, like, messing with a Rubik's Cube or some shit. Like, none of that bothered her because she knew that we were using it to pay attention. Like, I aced art history. I was here for art history. I have 2 art history paintings tattooed on my body because of this woman. Okay. I fucking loved her class. I could regurgitate anything she told me in that class. And it was because she made it so easy to sit there and learn because we weren't expected to sit there like statues. She was beautiful and amazing, and I miss her dearly. Now, another way that professors are chill is you have studio classes. Studio classes are 3 hours long. Dog, it's a long time. And if you're not doing a presentation or a critique, you are sitting there at a table or an easel or wherever and just fucking working. So most of the time, you had headphones. And most professors were very chill with that. As long as you weren't actually doing something that like required attention in class, you were just by yourself working, headphones all the way. Listen to whatever you want. If they needed to talk to you, if they had a question, if they were just coming around to check on you, they would just come up to you, get your attention, tap you, whatever. Take your headphones off, talk to them, put your headphones back on. It was a very like chill thing because you're there for hours. You gotta do something to occupy your mind, you know? Now, I did have one professor who fucking hated headphones. That was my painting professor. He hated them. Hated them. He said that if we had headphones in, we couldn't hear him, and then we wouldn't pay attention. As I just discussed, just get our attention. Just like go stand at the front of the class. We'll fucking notice you. Like, we're not trying to ignore you, which I think is what he thought it to be. We aren't trying to ignore you. We just don't want to listen to your music because his solution was to play Spotify through a speaker, like whatever he wanted. And then he would give us the idea of choice by being like, what do you guys want to hear? We're completely different human beings, bro. Like, I was in class with like people who love pop music. I liked folky music. And a couple of my painting class, we had retired people who were just coming back to school. We don't listen to the same music. And like, that's the beauty of headphones and listening to your own music. Just let's listen to our own music. I don't want to hear whatever you're playing. I really don't. Or whatever you're ranting about. Whatever controversial shit about Bob Ross you're saying today. That was some real shit. Keep Bob Ross's name out your mouth. He is our Lord and Savior. God. Anyway. Some other parts of a chill professor. You could eat in class. Beautiful people let you eat in class. Now, I will say sometimes they will ask you to share your food, which is honestly a valid price to pay. Like if I was a teacher and I had kids eating, I'd be like, you want to pass them chips around, son? Like, give me a chip. We're cool if you give me one. Like, so that was cool. Also, chill professors are usually very open to your ideas. They're not gonna like shoot you down really quickly or anything. They like, if you have something that's like absolutely off the wall, they're still gonna give you a chance to like explain yourself because they want to know what you're thinking. They're very like intrigued to know like how your brain works, which is very nice and very like encouraging. And overall, they just want you to enjoy the class. They want you to have a good time. They're here to have a good time too. They enjoy teaching. They want you to enjoy learning. So amazing vibes, you know, basically with chill professors. Now, the next type of professor is one rung down. They're the professional types. They're the people who this is a job. They come in, they teach, they have their curriculum, and they go home. There's nothing wrong with that. They just aren't like, they aren't as chill. They aren't as like engaging, but there's nothing wrong with them. They're your normal class experience. They're just here. This is their job. They have lives outside of here and they just do your job. You do your job and you get along fine. I will say those aren't as common in liberal arts because liberal arts people are usually wild in some way, shape, or form. Just because that's the nature of the beast. We're odd people. Usually, like, the only professional types that I really encountered were in the English department because I feel like that was much more because it's like a sit down, read a book, discuss a book, write an essay, discuss a paper. Like it's a much more formal environment, I would say, than like a music class or like a drawing class. But no qualms. Just like very average, very normal class experience. Now, there's a last here. And I do want to say there's like this professor thing is like a spectrum. They're not all going to be either amazing, mediocre, or awful, you know? Like it's a spectrum, but you're going to have someone of every level. Now, here's the bottom of the level. I named this level fucking rotten. And that's because they are. Now, I was thinking about it because I needed to know how many professors I had that were absolutely fucking rotten, bottom of the barrel, hate them. Okay? And I really thought about it. And there are 2 professors that made it to absolutely fucking rotten. Now, I had bad professors. I had much more than 2 bad professors. But I had 2 that, oh my fucking God, they would make you want to commit crimes. Bad professors. Okay? So let's talk about what an awful professor does. They're the worst human beings ever. Just overall, their demeanor, their attitude, the way they present themselves, they're fucking horrible. They're impossible to impress. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, it doesn't matter. They won't be impressed because they don't like you. And in general, they just don't like students. But they will have favorites, and those favorites will be completely arbitrary. And if you're not one of them, you will know immediately. And it's very annoying. They don't respect you. They don't respect you. They may like smooth other professors, but in class, you are lesser. They do not respect you. You aren't as good as them. You don't know as much as them, and they will let you know that. They will make things purposefully hard, and they don't care because they're doing it on purpose. Like they want you to fail. They want you to not have a good time. They don't care that you hate the class. They're there on a fucking high horse to do whatever the fuck they want. And it's awful. And one of the overarching themes I found between my 2 fucking rotten professors is that they taught a curriculum that was higher than what they were supposed to teach. Both professors taught upper level information in a 101 class. I don't know if the number was actually 101, but it was like basic class. Now, am I going to tell you what the classes were? Yes, I am that bitch. These people were fucking rotten. These were my ceramics professor and my music history professor. Specifically music history after like 1750. Like they split, so in the music department, they split music history into 2 classes. And there was one that started from monk chants and then it went to like 1700 and something. And then the second one was 1700 and something and went to modern day. And I was a dumb bitch and I picked 1700 to modern day. I'll go into music and explain. If no one did music and they're like, what the fuck do you mean it started at monk chants? I'll explain it later. Okay. Just know that that's what the class was. It was music history and it was specifically classical music. Like we weren't going into like Elvis and shit in the 1950s. Like it was classical music. Okay. This was instrumental shit. Symphonies and operas. Okay. But so what did these professors do specifically that was too higher level? So my ceramics professor, in ceramics, you're supposed to start with the wheel. The wheel is the spinny thing. Okay. The spinny thing, you have a lump of clay, you put it on there, it's wet, and you like mold it into a vase, right? Like that scene in Ghost, right? Patrick Swayze, like it's really hot and like whatever. And like, here, let me show you how to like mold a vase. Like that shit. Okay. That's supposed to be ceramics 101. Okay, you know why? Do you know why ceramics classes start with that? Because it's the easiest. It's easy. And it also teaches you to work with the clay very well because it's teaching you to how hard you need to press to mold it. It's teaching you how to create shapes, and it's also creating easy shapes. You're creating cylindrical things, very easy to make. We didn't fucking do that in Ceramics 101. We did slabs and coils. Coils, I guess it could be beginner. It wasn't hard. But like slabs was the bitch. I'm going to have to explain to you what coils are. So coils is you take a huge chunk of clay, right? And you squeeze it in this like thing that makes it into a long tube. Like what's in this tube? Sausage. Okay? Like you put in a long tube. And then you take the tube and you wrap it around itself, kind of like a snake, where it just like slowly gets taller and taller. And that like makes a vase shape. And then you like smooth out all the edges and stuff. And then you have a vase, right? Okay, so that's like coil. Coil kind of like pretty basic. I'm not mad about learning coil. That was okay. But that was only one unit. So that's fine. All the rest of our shit was slabs. Now, what is a slab? A slab is you take a chunk of clay, you put it on a giant metal roller, and you roll it flat. And then you cut it into pieces, and then you glue those pieces together. And by glue, I mean you take wet clay and you put it between your pieces of drier clay to like smush it together. Do you understand that that's harder to do? Because the shit falls apart. The shit falls apart. I have made atrocities out of slabs of clay. It's harder. There's a reason you don't start with it. And he fucking told us not to touch the wheels. He said, those are for upperclassmen. Don't touch those. Why am I struggling in your fucking 101 class? Oh my God. I'm going to have an episode dedicated to like each emphasis, explaining what that is, explaining what you do in the class and everything. My ceramics episode is about to be fucking livid. Okay. Oh, so that's insane, right? So purposely setting you up to fail because you haven't learned the true basics of like, this is how you work with clay, right? Because you haven't like made anything successfully because you're starting out with slabs that are really hard to stick together if you haven't been working with clay and like understand that it needs to be a certain wetness to stick together, and you have to like score it, and it has to be cut exactly right to make like clean edges and like all of this bullshit. Okay, so that was my life experience in ceramics. Then in music history, this woman taught music history, which is a basic class. It is a entry level music class. Okay, entry level. Like a grad class, like a master's level class. Okay, she did not give a shit that we did not know things already. We were expected to know symphonies. We were not like I've heard of these symphonies, okay? Like I've been in band long enough. I've been around, I've heard them. But we were expected to know about them. We were expected to know the history before we got there to learn the history. Like I'm here to learn, and you're mad that I don't already know it, was how she taught. And then specifically what she did that was actually a grad level thing, something that you would not even do in any level of a bachelor degree, was that she would have hearing tests where we would have to recognize symphonies and write down what they were. And now, to normal people, that may not sound bad, but let me explain to you what the task was. She would assign like 8 symphonies or like 8 operas or like some shit like that, right? Usually it was symphonies. And symphonies can be like an hour long. Just like an hour nonstop of music, okay? They can be long ass bitches. Like probably the shortest one is like maybe 30 minutes. Maybe. That we went over, okay? And then we would go to class because our homework would be to listen to the symphonies, okay? And then we would need to memorize them, right? Memorize them. The whole hour, Okay? Because then we would go to class and she would play 30 seconds of said symphony at any point in the symphony. It could be at any point in the whole hour. And then she would go, "What symphony was that?" I don't fucking know, bitch. I don't know. None of us know. What the fuck do you mean? That shit was insane. That whole class was insane. She got mad at me on my final project for bullshit because she was a pianist and I was a clarinetist, and I dared to say that the clarinet part of a clarinet solo with a piano background had a piano background. She goes, "That's actually a duet." No, it's fucking not. This is my 11th year of clarinet, bitch. I know this solo. I can play it. Do you know what it says on the front? Do you know what it says on the front page? Clarinet solo with a piano accompaniment. That made me very heated. I apologize. Now, all of this about professors to say, you're going to have amazing ones. You're going to have absolutely amazing ones, and you're going to have absolutely terrible ones. As we discussed, my art history professors convinced me to get tattoos. They changed my life. And by convinced me to get tattoos, I don't mean like they sat me down and they were like, "You should get a tattoo." I mean, I loved their class and through them loved art history so much that I got art history tattooed on my body. Okay. The most influential, probably the most influential person I've ever like interacted with was my clarinet professor. Genuinely. That man changed my life for the better. He was so helpful. He was the most helpful fucking professor I've ever had. And he was my fucking lesson instructor. Okay? I was not his priority. I was only a minor. I was not a major. I was barely in the music department because I was always in the fucking art department. Music was not my main thing. And that man was above and beyond amazing. Okay? You're gonna have professors who absolutely fucking change your life. They are amazing people. You will. You're also gonna have fucking rotten professors. And then you're gonna have everything in between. And that's the college experience. And the main thing is that you're not in this alone. If you're in a horrible class with a horrible professor, guess what? The person beside you is also having a terrible time. And y'all can be miserable together. You know, you're all experiencing things. And at least you're not alone experiencing them. And also, there are ways you can try to avoid bad professors. Like, obviously, sometimes there's going to be classes that are only taught by one professor, so you have to take them because they're mandatory, which was my dilemma and my problem. But there are resources to you where you could try to avoid bad professors. Like, there's websites like Rate My Professor where you could look up professors who are all teaching like English 101, and you can be like, "Oh, this person's god awful, like has terrible reviews, let me go with this other person." That's a super helpful like resource. Also, the best resource, especially if you're like in an art department that's small where everyone knows everybody and has to take a class with everybody, ask people who took the class before you. You know, like if someone's in printmaking and you're about to have to take printmaking, be like, "Yo, how is it? Like, is it been like, what are your tips and tricks? Like, is it chill or am I gonna have to like smooth this bitch?" Like, talk to people. They can help you get through it. Or like if it's a really hard class, you could always try to find someone who took the class before you and be like, "Hey, how did you pass this test?" Like, you know, people are willing to help you. You really just need to ask, because like college is like, it's a very all-inclusive, all collaborative environment. You're all gonna have to deal with these people, and some people have solutions. Some people can be like, hey, they fucking suck, but if you like draw a dog, they'll love you. Like some random shit like that, like that you wouldn't know unless you talk to someone. And then you can draw a dog, and then you can be that person's favorite, and then your problem solved, you know? Basically, it's a mixed box. It's a mixed bag with professors. But I think the experience is worth it when you find the good ones. Because so happy with my experience at college and at art school because of my good professors. My good professors were life changing. So there is stuff to look forward to, and they're not all fucking rotten. They're not. But you are gonna experience at least one professor who's fucking rotten. And it's gonna suck, but you're gonna get through it. And then you're gonna have a story to talk about on a podcast 4 years later. Here we are. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. Like I said at the beginning, next time is going to be grad students, which you're going to have to experience in honestly any major, most likely, because usually if a school offers a bachelor, they also offer the master's in it and maybe even the doctorate. And if you didn't know, part of grad student curriculum is that they have to teach bachelor classes, which could be great or could be ass. So, join me next time and we'll talk about my grad student experiences. And I will see you guys later.